Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Anxiety Chicks podcast. I'm Alison Taylor,
And I'm Taylor.
and we're so excited to be back here with you. I missed you guys last week. I was taking a little mental health reset.
I know your trip looked fun.
It was really nice. Had to, I mean, I didn't have to. I had a huge kind of presentation that I was working on for my book that just came out through just this educational programming company. And it took up every single second of my day for the last like 2 months. And I got it done last week. So I was like, I'm going to go take a little reset and break. And it was really nice. It was really, really well needed. But you did a great job. You held down the fort, Taylor, and it looks like you had a great episode. So love
Yeah,
it.
it seems like people really want to hear more about I talked a little bit about like the anxiety around the nutrition and wellness industry and how we're fed so much information, like it's too much, it's information overload. Do this, do that, take this, take that, don't take this, don't eat this, don't, like I even as a professional, I'm like, dude, what? Like I
Yeah.
am in this field and I feel like my brain is trying to process all the new news every day. So people definitely want to hear more
100%.
on nutrition. I gave a few tips for people to start, like little things that they can control. That would be good for anybody. Hit your protein goals, try to cut out as much processed food as you can,
Yeah.
do your water intake, check your vitamin D levels, check your B12 levels, yearly blood work. Those are like the things we can do now.
Yeah.
Everybody could benefit from? And so it's
Oh
like
my
start
gosh.
small, don't stress yourself out, and
I
you'll be
love
good.
that. Yes.
And
So
also
go
live in
back.
80/20. I also talked about how
Oh,
we are causing ourselves more stress by figuring out what to eat, that it's like, no, like you literally have to live in moderation. If you want a piece of cake for someone's birthday or some event, eat the piece of cake. Like you have to live in that because you will cause yourself so much more stress and so much cortisol. It's just not good. So
yes.
go listen to that
No.
episode. It's a great one.
Amazing. I love that. Yeah. One thing I definitely, just before we hop onto our topic today, for myself, and I've realized that when I'm in a pattern of eating not right, my body knows. I just feel sluggish. I feel gross. I don't sleep as well. I just
Hmm.
know when I put different types of foods in my body, it reacts to it in a negative way. And sometimes it's such a habit, just like eating a certain way is such a habit. Sometimes you literally consciously have to start just disciplining yourself the first like couple weeks and eating differently, and then your body gets used to it, and your body like craves that health stuff. Your body
Yeah.
craves, more of the smooth, like I have smoothies and it craves like fruit and veggies now. I like crave them instead of craving all the sugar. Um,
Hmm.
I love it. Yes. So go listen to that episode. Thank you, Taylor, for holding down the fort. But no, today I'm so excited because I
I
feel
was
like,
about to say it kind of leads into today.
oh yeah,
Like just
no,
more like all this information.
no, actually, you're totally right. We just went live again. If anyone is new to our podcast or new to our pages, we go live at 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Wednesday. It's called the Chicks Chatting. And for about 20 minutes to a half hour, we just talk a little bit about the podcast episode that we're releasing that week and kind of give a little sneak peek about what we're talking about. We answer questions. We have good conversations with the healers that join. And so stay tuned for that if you guys want to listen each week. And we'll have the replays up on our page too. So do that. And if you haven't yet subscribed or reviewed our podcast, please subscribe and review. If you're watching on YouTube, hello, everyone. Subscribe to YouTube and just leave us reviews. All of that good stuff, obviously, I want to say first and foremost, because it really helps get the word out there for our podcast. And it just helps people. It helps people. I mean, honestly, that's it, period. It just helps get the word out and it helps more and more people. And that's literally why we're doing this, is so we can help more people feel less alone. Okay. So let's jump into today's topic. Okay. Health anxiety in the age of social media and medical misinformation. Oh my gosh.
Oh boy. Haven't we
Okay.
all been victims to that? I feel like, and I want to hear your perspective on this. I
Okay.
feel so well, hang on. I had health anxiety way before COVID, but I feel like since COVID, more people have cyberchondria. Which
Yes.
can you first give the definition of cyberchondria?
Okay, you guys. So cyberchondria, I'm not even going to lie, this is a term that I'm just learning about. Okay. So maybe it's a fairly new term. I obviously know what it means because it basically means that when you Google your symptoms. So when you're searching your symptoms, like you have certain symptoms, and that actually often leads to like misinformation, right? And unnecessary worry or anxiety. We talk about Dr. Google all the time. We've talked about it on our podcast a million times. We've talked about health anxiety on our podcast. Um, but it's called cyberchondria. So I was talking on the live earlier and I was thinking, I'm doing a post about this. I haven't seen anything really about this, at least on my feed, which goes into today's topic too, right? Like it's just interesting to know that there's a word for that, right? And there has to be a word for that now because of the internet. We didn't 20 years ago, no one could just look up on Google their anything that any information, anything that they wanted, right? So now there's a word for it. Um, but let's like dive into this kind of like health anxiety spiral in the age of social media and like why this leads to medical misinformation and what we can do about it. Because I think that there's some cases where social media has actually kind of like amplified health anxiety a little bit, you
Mhm.
know, with the rise of misinformation and like doom scrolling. We've had a whole episode about doom scrolling before. Um, and how just
I'm
like,
being completely honest with you,
yeah,
Allison. When I first started going through health anxiety, dude, it felt like nobody was. Like online, you couldn't find much about it. Uh Even like just people talking about like, oh, I think I have this, or like looking into even people just like talking about symptoms they have and things they're going through. I trust me because I was Googling. I don't remember
yeah,
even being on it. Instagram was more of just like I don't know if you remember it. This was around like 2015. It was more of just like people like actually posting their friends. There wasn't as many influencers. So it's like people weren't selling things. There wasn't, you know?
100%. Oh my gosh, yeah. They didn't have half the stuff. They didn't have filters. They didn't have like all the
No.
stickers on they didn't even have stories. I don't even think Instagram had
Yeah.
stories until
No,
like
they didn't. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so it was so different. They also didn't have as many users as they have now.
Mhm.
And we didn't have TikTok. So there are so many now different platforms that have information at the tip of your fingertips, right? Right? Like so fast, you can get information so fast. And that's where really the misinformation comes on because, as we were talking about in our live, um, there's so much about the algorithm that we don't know, that we don't have education about how things come into our feed or why we start seeing things. And to be completely honest, I mean, I don't know this for a fact. I'm not like friends with someone at, the CEO of Meta. I don't know. But what I do know is that when I'm talking and I'm having a conversation with about like my health or anything with a friend at a coffee shop and my phone is out on the table, 2 hours later, I'm getting like an ad for, rosacea, right? That's something I struggle with, or an ad for, or something like, were you involved in a lawsuit with, skin cancer? Because I was talking about going to the dermatologist and I was scared. I mean, they're always listening to us. Okay.
Mhm.
So it's just really, really important to know how to put your feed in a place, your like social media feed in a place that doesn't create more health anxiety, right? Doesn't amplify it. And that's kind of where I really want to focus on, right? Because like the impact of social media on like the perception of health, like honestly, it really can fuel it. I'm sorry. It really can. I think it's so wonderful. I think there's a lot of education. We talk a lot about how amazing it is to have education that maybe we didn't have before, right? About the healthcare, mental health, and
Mhm.
physical health. But sometimes too much information isn't great either. And like constant exposure. to like all of these alarming health headlines. Like when you think of COVID,
Yes.
you just mentioned that
Facebook, TikTok are the worst offenders.
constant exposure to these like headlines that are all about like healthcare. I mean, you're going to see it. They do that on purpose, right? It's kind of like
Yeah.
clickbaity. So that's like a huge thing. There's a lot of unverified medical advice from a lot of influencers now and a lot of like non-experts. So
Yeah.
I don't want to like poo poo a lot of these influencers and people like raising awareness for because they've gone through similar experiences with their mental health or physical, right? I don't want to poo poo on any of that because I think as more awareness about and more conversations, whether it's about anxiety, depression, trauma, bipolar, schizophrenia, this is all mental health stuff, but anything that people talk about more can raise awareness. And I admire that. And I think that's amazing. But when you're talking about like research and clinical aspects of medical and physical and mental health, it's really, really important that you see the credentials of somebody, see the experience from someone you're following. Um, you know, what are they within the medical field or the healthcare field, right? Do they have the training? What is it that they're teaching you, right? I mean, it's important. It's important when you think about stuff like that when it comes to your health. There's a
Yeah.
lot of misinformation, you know?
There's a lot. Or like another thing is also reminding yourself that we are all individuals. And so if someone comes on and they say like this diet or this thing, it really helped them. I'm not I'm not in disbelief that it didn't help them. It might have helped them. But if you are like, this is, I'm going all in and this is what I'm going to do, and it doesn't work for you and you feel defeated and you're like, I'll never get better, or I'm just stuck in this forever, that's not true. Just because it worked for someone doesn't mean it's not going to work for you. I'm very grateful. I want to say this first. I'm very grateful for all the people who have come out, even like against medical professionals and said, like, listen up, like, and have gone against the grid. But like I said, you have to have your intuition of like, who you're listening to, the information you're taking in. I know a lot of people are very like, I'm going to go 100% in on like everything they hear. Sometimes my mom does that. So, like, she'll hear about like these influencers posting about like colostrum or athletic greens. And like these could be like amazing products, but she makes it like sometimes the way people say it is like it's this end all be all going to cure everything,
Totally.
where it's like sometimes it's just something you add to your life or like you see if it's going to work for you. It might not work for you. It could be, so like really approaching everything with questions and then also with like, okay, this is really cool. I can add this to my list of modalities that are available for me to try, you know,
Yeah.
and be curious with everything.
I mean, and I think that just taps on one of the most important things you can do if you're listening to this or you're watching this and your feed is just full of health related information and it really makes it hard to break out of this health anxiety loop, right? You're just opening your phone and it's all there all the time, all this information. Um, being able to being able to say, like someone in the live mentioned, there sometimes is an option where it says, are you interested or not interested in this? And they'll show you
Mhm.
something and click like not interested. There is a way on your phone that you can actually stop certain words, keywords. If you put in your settings, there's certain keywords that you don't, if you put them in there and you don't want to see that information, they won't show it to you.
Mhm.
Like whether it's about COVID or whether it's about uh, what did we talk about before? Oh, someone I was saying in the live, I was listening to another podcast and they didn't want to hear about the Kardashians anymore. So they put like every Kardashian name and they didn't want to see that. Um, and so there is a way to do that. And that's like all about, really proactively changing this algorithm for you because the algorithm, honestly, it's it's going to push this like health related content if you're always like looking something up or you're liking a lot of stuff or they even know if you're scrolling past a reel and you stop to look at the reel for more than 5 seconds, they take note, the algorithm takes note of that, and then it's
Well,
going to
and let's
feed this
also
anxiety loop.
let's also be honest about health anxiety. I mean, I've been there. I know what it's like. You get addicted to the information because you feel like you're finding some sense of control in it, right? So when you are getting fed a bunch of these stories or headlines or videos on disease and illness, someone with health anxiety, they think they're doing good for themselves by watching it. Oh my gosh, the more information I know, the better I can fight, make sure I never get this. And like, I remember thinking that way. I remember like being obsessed with looking all that stuff up. And I think that's the first step is like recognizing like you're putting your energy into something that can't help you. So, like I said on the live, first acknowledge that like you're kind of addicted to this kind of information. You're addicted to hearing about all these people's stories, and you know how people will comment, you read the comments on like people's stories and they're like, oh, what do you think caused it, or like what do you think, like everybody's trying to figure out how to not get cancer, how to not get, and it's like
Yeah.
it's too much for the brain. And with health anxiety, that's your first step. You have to recognize, I'm addicted to this. I'm going to set a boundary with myself that I'm not going to allow myself to sit and just compulsively watch these videos and scare myself. And you might think, oh, I'm not scared, but it's like, no, it's going into your head. It's compulsively playing in your head.
Yes. And as a psychologist, it's feeding the anxiety loop, right? This is the stuff I
Yes.
work on and within my practice, is I work on breaking with my clients is this constant loop of anxiety, which literally is whatever's feeding it and whatever they're doing to keep feeding these intrusive thoughts and these things about whether it's their health or social anxiety or trauma. They're feeding it. And this is just another piece of the puzzle of someone with health anxiety that's going to feed those intrusive thoughts. And so you just mentioned something, which is one of the biggest tips that we're going to say today when it comes to like medical misinformation and this just health anxiety, fueling health anxiety with social media is setting boundaries. And this is going to be something that's going to have to be really, really proactive. So, like you
Hmm.
said, this is something that you're going to have to consciously do, right? The algorithm's going to keep sending you all this stuff. So, you're going to have to actually consciously say to yourself, okay, I'm going to tomorrow I'm going to take an hour out of my day and I'm going to unfollow, these accounts that I really don't think that serve me. They feed, like, they reel me in, you know what I mean? That's why it's called reels. It's almost like, oh my gosh, I can't look away, right? Like a car accident.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's not something I'm so scared of this, but I can't look away from it. That's not what you should feel, right? As you scroll. So boundaries are going to be huge, right? So like setting social media time limits, right, can reduce your exposure to anxiety inducing content. So someone on our live earlier mentioned all these lives because I love it. Someone said they literally took a month off of social media for a
Yeah.
mental health reset. Now, I'm not saying you have to take a month, right? You might be thinking, watching or listening, and, oh, what? No, okay, no, but time off is good. Maybe you take a
Yeah.
day. Maybe you start with a day and you just take some time away, you know?
Yeah.
Um, Muting or unfollowing accounts that trigger health related fears. That's what I said earlier. Right. Oh, and I forgot you
And
can
like
mute.
really being honest with yourself, like really being honest with yourself. Like, are you looking at this page because you actually like this person? Or I know I've caught my mom doing this because my mom doesn't like to admit she has health anxiety, but like there was this one influencer who said, "Hey guys, like I just found out I have breast cancer." My mom never followed this influencer. All of a sudden, she's following this influencer. I said, "Girl, you just trying to follow her journey." And she goes, "No, I'm not. I don't have anxiety. I'm just curious." I'm like, "No, you're curious because your anxiety's curious." It's like, why are you following this person?
Yeah.
Why did you find their account? Are you wanting to see what they're doing and how, like, just so you can prevent it in your own life? Like, you have to be so honest with yourself.
Well, and it's, listen, there's one thing, there are reasons why following certain accounts like that might be helpful for someone as far as like feeling less alone and what they're struggling with, right? Like it's just a person
Yes.
who looks like them, maybe who maybe doesn't even look like them, but who lives maybe a lifestyle or is like just another person who could be, Susie Joe down the street. And those types of people and seeing that they struggle too can help you feel less alone in it. So I get why people would want to do that, but at the same time, if someone like your mom, who isn't really
Yes.
doesn't have her own self-awareness about it and isn't working on her health anxiety, either in therapy or really trying to create a toolkit or like work on her intrusive thoughts about her health, if she's not working on any of that on her own and then she's following that influencer, then it's definitely going to fuel it.
Yeah. No, yeah, I bet I know I know it comes from a good place when like influencers or even just people like there's this girl Bailey on TikTok. She's so sweet and she has colon cancer and I'm sure she is such a light and a resource to people who have colon cancer. If
Yeah.
you are going through that, I mean she's amazing. She talks about all these holistic and ways she's approaching it and things she's doing and I
Yeah.
think that that is so beneficial for someone like you said to feel not alone. Kind of like my page. Like if you have health anxiety and you find my page, you feel so much less alone.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but like you said, my mom, it's like, okay, why are you following?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's more of like the intention of it, right? Because there's so many, I mean, you have to think about social media these days too, is it's like reality TV, right? So people are following these stories because it's like captivating TV, quote unquote. I'm doing air quotes. Um, and that's just another thing to watch that's interesting. But when you struggle with health anxiety, that is definitely something that you're going to want to be careful about. Like someone like that, following
Yeah.
someone like that and a page like that when you have health anxiety. Because if you are not in a place where you are inside your window of tolerance and you're actually able to be stabilized and you're working on those intrusive thoughts and you feel like you kind of have it under control, if you're outside of that, this is just going to continue to feed the loop like I was talking about before, the health anxiety loop. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Um, but I forgot, I was just saying earlier about muting accounts. I forgot that you can mute accounts and not just
Mhm.
unfollow. So if you feel like you don't want to unfollow right now, you can still mute them and see like that's a boundary and see how that goes. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah.
Um, and then so here's another boundary, another tip that you can do if you feel like this is something that's happening for you. Um, Try and curate your feed. Again, this is more proactive in nature because the algorithm's just going to do what it's going to do. Curate your feed with more like positive and uplifting content, right? So more maybe it doesn't even have to be news related or medical health care related. There are so many incredible feeds and pages that I even love and follow that are so inspirational. Um,
Mhm.
there's a couple pages that just every day they post like a really warm and comforting inspirational quote. Or something that comes on my feed that I actually makes me stop and read and I really think about when it comes to, feeling like I'm safe and feeling like I'm enough and feeling like I'm okay if I, have a setback in my journey and that can actually make me feel comforted. There's a lot of great pages. I know Positively Present is one that I love.
Mhm.
She does amazing artwork and she has educational information also, but she has a lot of like the positive type of content on there. And then I think there's one called The Good News. Is it The Good News? I don't know if that's exactly what it is, but it it basically just posts it pays every day. It posts a reel or posts a story about something good that happened in the world.
I love that.
It's like, this is great. This
I
is
used to
more
follow this guy
of,
Jimmy who would like go up to people and he would be like, "Hey," he would ask them like an odd question, but like just checking society. Like he'd be like, "Hey, can you help me put these groceries in my car? Like my hands are really full." And like some people would say no, and then like that one person would say yes, and he would actually like give them money. He'd be like, "You are actually a really kind human. Like I
oh
hope you
my
know you're a really good person." It was really
gosh.
cool. Like Jimmy, oh, what's his name? Jimmy something. But if you look it up, he
Shoot.
like went viral and stuff. Really cool guy.
Okay. But yeah, like more pages like that. I mean, go into the search bar on Instagram or TikTok and just type in, positive stories of the day or inspirational quotes or inspirational content.
Mhm.
Healthy, like, I don't know, something with like healthy
Cooking
thoughts,
recipes.
healthy
Yeah.
thoughts. Yeah, like
There's
peaceful,
like fun
calming.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, peaceful or calming scenes. Something that's literally just not about news and about
Hmm.
information. It's about helping regulate your nervous system and changing really the way that you think and
Or even
making.
like reality TV stuff. I know you like to do that.
Oh yeah, I know.
You know, like
That's like one
just
of my distraction, like,
yeah.
types of ways is, yeah, I follow a lot of like pop culture stuff and that gets me out of my head.
I'm like, oh no, Allison's posting about Vanderpump Rules.
Yeah, and Love is Blind just started today, season 6 or
Oh
7 or
boy.
something. And
Oh,
so
is it
that's like
really? Like the
it's like one of
USA
my
one?
it's USA, yeah. I think it's
Oh,
season I have to check what season it is, but I just started it. So
Love
it's
is
for
Blind
6
is good. Would you
it
go on that, Allison?
oh my gosh, I talk about it all the time with my family.
Do we need to all sign her up?
I would love. Okay,
Wait, you
I'm
need
way
to get
too
on it,
old.
Allison.
I'm too old right
Are
now.
you?
They have like people in their 30s, early 30s. They don't have
Hmm.
anyone that's like over 40 on Love is Blind right now. Okay, it's season 7. And yes, 1000%. I wouldn't go on it. Well, no, I would go on the show if they had it for like, I would try whatever. But honestly, I'd rather not go on the show. I think someone needs to start this type of like experiment though in like local cities.
You're so right.
And you don't have to get engaged by the end of the 4 weeks, but
Yeah,
you
yeah.
start, I think the engagement in 3 weeks or 4 weeks is
It's
dumb.
crazy.
But I think this concept of meeting someone and like having like a social kind of like weekend or something where you meet these people in pods, I think it's a brilliant idea. I don't know. I feel like it's only about a matter of time, but anyway, that's like one of my emotional support shows, right? So I'll follow all the Love is Blind people on Instagram and that's what like comes up. Um, so that's another tip. And then, obviously something that's so important that I say all the time, whether it's about this medical misinformation or health anxiety for any type of mental health, it's just so important to learn how to regulate yourself and create your toolkit, right? So
Yes.
techniques like body scans or mindful breathing or grounding exercises to stay present and avoid spiraling, really working on rewiring your brain, whether it's with CBT or some other type of therapeutic intervention is going to be huge. And really focusing on what you have control over, right? Like your reactions, your behaviors, your routines. You have control over who you follow. You just do. You have control over how much time you spend on social media. You just do,
Yeah.
right? Like you have control over, you wake up and you decide to meditate or do a couple different kind of like regulation exercises throughout the day from your healing toolkit. You are in control of that. You're in control of all of those things,
Hmm.
right? And so I think really being able to like understand more of what you can take control over, especially in the digital space and where you decide to get your information from, and how you decide to advocate for yourself and do your own research, like that's what's going to help. Yeah.
I like that you said that. I like that you said that you have the control. It's all about, like I said, the first thing is self-awareness, being honest with yourself. Like I have a problem when it comes to it's almost like you're at an AA meeting. You're like, I am Taylor and I am addicted to reading about diseases.
i
You know, like you got to
I
be
mean,
honest with
it's,
yourself. So,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then tell yourself, I have the control over what I allow into my brain and what I don't.
yeah. I mean, so the bottom line is, you guys have heard us talk about this. If you're new, I mean, this is the biggest thing we say all the time. Like, anxiety is very real. Health anxiety is very real,
Yeah.
right? But we can manage it through setting boundaries with, whether it's digital boundaries or boundaries with, our kind of like social support system or whoever we're around. We can set boundaries there. And that's just like the biggest thing. And so, my healing tip of this week, I want you guys listening or watching to unfollow at least five. Okay. You can start there, but I'm going to say 5 accounts that after listening to this episode, you can honestly say to yourself, okay, I think this is feeding my health anxiety, or this is feeding my anxiety. This account is feeding it. I don't know how I feel after I watch these things, or I don't know. I find myself still in this loop of my intrusive thoughts or my anxious loop when I look at this person's feed. It's not helpful for me. I want you to unfollow 5 of those people. And then I want you to follow 5 people that we mentioned before, or 5 pages that I mentioned before about good news, about some inspirational quotes, about there's, oh my God, there's one page. I'm going to find it for you guys, where all it is this guy posts every single day a different breath exercise. And it's basically just a ball going up and down, but it
Yeah, I've
has
seen that.
beautiful, like, calming music. And every
Mm-hmm.
day it's just like, here, try this pattern today. It's 2426. And it's just a page of this guy, and it's this ball. It's breath work. It's just like this breath work. I'm just looking for it. But follow something like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Here, while
Any
you
other
look
page?
that up, I'll do my quote of the day.
Okay.
Okay, the quote of the day is anxiety does not empty tomorrow of its sorrows, but only empties today of its strengths.
Wait, can you say it again?
Anxiety does not empty tomorrow of its sorrows, but only empties today of its strengths.
That's deep. What does that mean?
Yeah, like so if you have anxiety about today, all the things of today, it's not going to help you prevent anything that's going to happen tomorrow. All you're
Right.
doing is wasting all the good things of today.
Right. You're almost like worrying about it won't change the outcome.
No, it's
That's
just
pretty
stealing your
much.
peace today.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, so the page I was just talking about is soothing_breathe, showing it on
Cool.
YouTube to the people following us on YouTube. Can you see that? It's
Yes.
like backwards, right? But we'll put it in the show notes. I can put it in the show notes. Soothing_breathe. It
Hmm.
literally just has different breath work things. Anyway, that's literally the type of pages. 5 to get rid of, 5 to start following.
I
That is
love
my
it. Good
healing
tip.
tip of the week. All right, you guys, love you all so much. Please rate, review, subscribe, YouTube, Apple, anywhere you get your podcast, and listen to the Chicks Live every Wednesday at 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We love you guys. Bye.
Bye.